Right, I think we should be live now. Let me just double check. Yes. Right, yes, looks like we are live. Okay. So welcome, and yes, a live stream here in the UK. It's pretty early. This is an international live stream with two of the cast from, of course, Big Trouble in Little China, and we're all in different parts of the world today. So it's pretty interesting. Of course, I'm in the UK. We've got for the first time Donald Lee, of course, who played Eddie in Big Trouble in Little China. He's currently on vacation in Thailand and has very kindly joined us. And of course, James Pax returning for his second interview with us, and he's currently in America, in Las Vegas. So it is. Right. We're all in different time zones at the moment. It's early for me. It's probably late for James, and about midday for Donald there. So we're kind of all over the place. So. If one of us is looking a bit tired at some point, that'll be the reason. So, obviously, we're doing this interview live. Anyone who wants to kind of say, comment or a question, you're more than welcome to. We've already got Matt saying Big Trouble in Little China, favorite movie. Thank you, Matt. There.
Hello, Matt.
So yeah, obviously, any questions you want to fill to these guys, feel free. And we'll be talking about a whole bunch of kind of fun stuff. The first thing I just wanted to touch on briefly on the subject of Big Trouble in Little China. Unfortunately, a little bit of a sad topic, but I feel we have to obviously talk about that. And that was the sad passing of one of your cast members quite recently, Peter Kwong, who I think passed away like the last 2 weeks. And obviously, James, one of your fellow Storms. Yes. So I just wondered if you guys had any kind of like anecdotes or stories about your thoughts about working with Peter in the time, or anything you wanted to share, basically.
Well, I kind of know him. I can't say that I'm a close friend of his, but during the shooting, of course, three of us are always together. The most recent encounter with Peter was about I think a year or two ago, that we were doing private signing for the Three Storms, and also with James Hahn together, on these big posters. Yeah. And that's when I met him a couple of times. At the time when I met him, I thought he was healthy and normal and all of that. Apparently, that from what I heard, his close friend said he has some kind of a disease with the blood or something. And It happened in one afternoon, I think was during his sleep. That's the last thing I heard about, how he passed away, which of course is a big shame, because there's only a few of us left. James Hahn, it's already 93 or 94, but he just got his beautiful star on the Hollywood Star Walk there, and so he doesn't really move around much these days. He just stays in LA.
You wouldn't 90, would you?
Yes, and he's on his wheelchair. The last time I saw him, for the autograph signing.
Is that right?
And, but he still stands up when he needs to talk and all of that. I don't know if he just like to sit on the wheelchair because he wanted to play the part that he was in the movie. Yes, he's channeling the part, or if he's really on the wheelchair, because last time I saw him in his apartment, it was an outdoor patio that we met at, and his wife had to push him out on the wheelchair, and he was so scared. He had these white gloves and mask on, and white glove. My goodness, like a doctor or something, So, but anyway, we understand, of his age. But I mean, he was looking fine, and I think I just spoke to him a week ago, and he said he's fine. I was going to invite him for a Comic-Con.
Yeah.
But I think he wasn't quite sure if he could do it or not. as you know, at his age,
probably be quite stressful,
exactly.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, in regards to Peter, I read that obviously his character had all the long hair and the big sort of sideburns, and I read that was actually his idea to have that, give him like a bit of like visual difference between obviously your character and Carter's character. You know, so you know. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, you guys, I'm sure that that was a bit of a shocking for you. But you know, I suppose
I think James, kind of, you mentioned in passing during one of the conversations we had last week, and I thought I didn't know exactly what you were referring to, and I just put it out of my. I just put it out of my mind, not thinking that it was for real, and then. Yeah. Somebody I had a conversation with stateside yesterday said, yeah, he read online that Peter passed on in his sleep.
Yes.
And so
which is good.
Said, oh, of course. That's what James was talking about. But
there you go.
The last remembrance I had of Peter was that we competed against each other a lot for kind of the same things, the same kind of job opportunities. And I think the last time I saw him was for a commercial audition. I think it was some toothpaste like Colgate or something. And I know I didn't get it. So, but he was always very active, proactive in positive Asian American politics, so to speak, especially in the entertainment industry. And so from that respect, he was always very supportive of you know, people, especially Asian Americans, trying to pursue their dreams in the industry. And so I always thought that was very courageous of him and great for him doing and caring enough for him to be involved in like the politics like that. But yeah, he was a young guy, and you know, again, if this was a blood thing, that's really kind of a sad story. But
very, very sad. Just, I mean, I'm curious, just to kind of like to follow up on something you were just talking about there, Donald, about obviously the Asian American politics and kind of Hollywood and stuff. I mean, can you give us an idea about a bit more context about that? I mean, is it more difficult, would you say, or you sort of typecast for sort of certain things? Is that what you mean?
Exactly right. I think James will attest to this very well, and that it, you know, it's always hard to break out of those stereotypical molds that Hollywood and the greater audience in general might have of, say, what an Asian person is supposed to be like, or a Hispanic person is supposed to be like, you know, and the whole constraints that Hollywood has in that regard. They still, you know, it's gotten much better over the last couple of decades, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Sure.
And but in particular with I think we've made some strides, at least with the Asian Americans, and most recently with the big success of the film that won the Oscar a couple of years ago. The name escapes me now. Long name. What was that name?
Yeah,
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
All at Once. Yeah, it's actually just last year, and also
last year.
Significant. It was last year. Yes.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah, and in which, of course, won several awards. I think the best script, the best director, and also the best actress. Michelle Yeoh won it.
Michelle Yeoh.
You know, Michelle Yeoh and I did a movie together called The Heroic Trio in Hong Kong. It was a huge success, $20 million box office back in the early 90s. But one other film that was very successful among the Hollywood movies was a movie called Shang-Chi. You probably remember it came out 3 years ago.
One, yeah.
Yeah. And it's again based on Chinese Marvel comic book, but it's on Chinese storyline. I would say that is probably the second, in the last 35 years, the second movie that is based on Chinese storyline that became successful.
Yeah.
The first one has to be Big Trouble in Little China.
It was, certainly the American story based.
Definitely.
But there was a Chinese film, I forget the name of it. It was a sequel that I think came out last year. It was the biggest film of the year, made like 1.5 billion. I think it might have been even this year.
Oh yeah. It was actually this year. There's an animation from China called哪吒. That's an animation. It's the newest one. It just came out about 3-4 months ago in America, and it was aired in America, Australia, and New Zealand, and it actually did quite well. I mean, about 25 million altogether, in the foreign market. But in China market alone, it beat out everyone else, and it's the number one grossed movie of the year.
It is, It's done incredibly well. All right, so we'll circle back to the movies again in a little bit. And again, if anyone wants to throw any questions out, please feel free. But we're going to look to the future a little bit at the moment, and we're going to talk about some upcoming stuff that you guys have got going on. Specifically, first of all, in the UK, obviously, could you give us some details about the London Kung Fu Con?
Yes, it's called the London Kung Fu Con. Usually, when I punch, there's going to be lightning coming out. It's actually an event that I created during the COVID time. All right, and I been to a couple of Comic Cons, and so many different subject matters and everything. I just say, hey, why not do something related to action? And it's about kung fu, martial arts, action, all combined together. That's where the whole thing came about. And after I did some planning, back and forth, I say, yeah, this could be successful. So I decided to carry it out, and it took me 2 years because first of all, it's hard to get the team together. I'm in China, we don't have any staff in UK, so we had to have some volunteers. And finally, we found 2 wonderful volunteers who are loyal fans of Big Trouble and good friend of mine now, and they're willing to help. So after 2 years of planning, finally we're ready to go. We were supposed to go in April, and then the date was in conflict with another Comic-Con in London, so we had to cancel that. And now we are ready to go. Most likely it's going to be on the first week of September, and it's going to be in London, but kind of in the outskirts. I've never been there, of course. It was all arranged by my correspondent in London. And I cannot announce the name of the venue, but it's all going to be on this website. Hold on one sec. I need to read it out to you. It's called www.kungfulegends.com. Kung Fu Legends with an S.com, where you're going to find all the information. And Jenny, the producer, as we're speaking, she is putting on all the tiers of pricing and package deals that all the fans can buy, and depends on different package deal. You will pick and choose what you want. But every package that will have James Pax, Lightning, and Donald Lee, Eddie autograph, selfies, and then plus. So it's nice package deal that you
I
get.
will leave a link
double
in the description
autograph
for everyone. Obviously, if they want to, go and check it out, and please do. And I might even try and get up there myself to come and see you guys up there. That'd be fantastic. Although I suspect people would be asking you to do a bit of demonstrations of kung fu, live at the convention. I wouldn't be surprised. You've let yourself in for that, I feel.
Well, I am ready. I'm ready. How about you, Donald? You do any kung fu at all?
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Go on. Okay. We'll let you off on that. That's right. All right. But I'm ready to do my nunchuck. All right. I'll do a little demonstration. But the good thing about this is, besides the autograph, selfies, and many of the merchandise, including my new camouflage lightning cap and everything. There's going to be Q&A, all right? There's going to be Q&A, and I'm going to be talking about two important things. First, how to be a good actor, which I'm sure a lot of young upcoming actors in UK and maybe in Europe, they would like to really, get a share of my thoughts about how to be a good actor. And I actually put out a video on my Instagram. Remember, quickly write it down. It's James Pax _lightning. James Pax _lightning, where you're gonna find a video about me talking about how to be a good actor. And second subject matter that we're gonna have Q&A on is about how to become a professional stuntman. Okay, and I'm talking about stuntmen specifically with martial arts skills. All right, and joining me at the Q&A will be one of the best martial artists in Europe, I would say. Okay, maybe in the world currently. He's only about 40 years old. His name is Emil. In terms of his last name, you can look him up in the website, and you will see him along with me and Donald's face, and Emil's face will appear. And his resume, everything you can see. He is in the Hall of Fame, 3 times UK Hall of Fame of the best martial artists. He studied Wing Chun in Hong Kong with one of the master, and also he studied with Dan Inosanto. That's right, Dan Inosanto, Bruce's partner and student. And so he is an incredible guy, and he's going to be there with me to conduct the Q&A because he himself is a stuntman. So together we're going to conduct this wonderful Q&A. So, everybody that's into martial arts or whatsoever, you're all welcome to come. And of course, you can come and share this Q&A with me and Emil. And Emil is going to demonstrate his Jeet-Kune-Do skill. And you're going to be very surprised how fast his hands moves. His hand moves, it's like punch in less than a quarter of a second. So in a second, he could be punching 5 times and get your left hand and right hand all loose. And then he's going to grab your neck and he's going to, punch you down to the ground. That kind of
Matt is just asking if that is if you see on the screen there, is that how we pronounce his name?
Yeah, that's him. I don't even know how to pronounce that name. Marty Trosian. Yes, that's him. Oh, Matt, you're fast. How did you find that out so fast? He must be famous.
I think his name is Emil. I think his name is probably Emil, however.
Emil. Yeah, Emil. Yeah. It is Emil. There you go. Emil, yes.
But Matt has also asked, James, how long have you been a martial artist?
All my life. Till now, I'm still practicing. Not as much, but I started when I was when I was 15, and actually also inspired by Bruce Lee. When I was a kid, I saw him on TV performing, and then the movie really affected me. So I decided to take up martial arts, from Kung Fu, Wing Chun, all the way to Taekwondo, Karate, and then to Aikido. I pretty much studied it all. And besides that, I was also a dancer, a ballet, and also a jazz dancer, because I just like movements. And so that's how it all came about. Yes, indeed.
Fantastic. He also asked, Donald, have you always been a lover? Of course you have.
In my dreams. Yes, in my dreams.
You've left the door open on that one, haven't you? So Donald will be demonstrating something else at the convention. That'll be a different type of demonstration. All right, fantastic. Yeah. All right, great stuff. So, obviously, in regards to the convention, as soon as more details become available, Obviously, you'll be able to see it from obviously the website that James is mentioning, and I'll also put it on our obviously on the channel here.
Right.
So let's just circle back to Big Trouble in Little China for a brief moment. So Donald, obviously you were kind of the sidekick to Kurt Russell's character Jack Burton in Big Trouble in Little China. How was your experience working with him? Because you worked pretty closely. You had a lot of scenes together, didn't you?
Oh yes. He was. I remember having this conversation with him, but he's just such a down to earth kind of guy. I was really struck by that because he didn't have any airs about him.
It's very true.
Yeah. I think he was just such a down to earth guy. It was like there's nothing negative I can really say about having worked with him. And what I found kind of a pleasurable experience was that he would actually kind of give you the stage. If you were in a scene with him, he kind of, yield a bit of his energy to what was to whoever it was that he was playing the scenes with. So I remember in between setups one day, I just kind of shared my impressions of him with him, and he was like very sheepish about it. And I also highly admired what he had done in a movie earlier in his career. I think it was with Meryl Streep and what's her name? The singer, who was married to Sonny Bono. What was her name?
Oh, Cher.
Yeah, they did. The three of them were the stars together in this movie called Silkwood, I think it was.
Silkwood, yes, I think so.
Such a different character in that. He was just so down to earth and so natural and everything. And I think I shared with him that I thought he got highly overlooked in the Oscar category, and he just started laughing and you really said, well, he was really highly appreciative of the compliment, but and he felt that that was some of the best work he had ever done as well. So the guy was he made it so easy. He just made it so easy to work with.
Fantastic. I was actually on that subject. I was just reading. Obviously, that Kurt Russell was initially a little bit hesitant to join Big Trouble in Little China because John Carpenter's films really, although they were quite revered and obviously they had massive sort of staying appeal, but none of them were particularly kind of like massive hits when they came out. So a lot of them were sort of garnered fans as they sort of were out for longer and stuff. And initially, he was a little bit sort of unsure about whether to do Big Trouble in Little China because I think he'd done obviously a couple of films with John Carpenter previous to that didn't weren't massive successes in regards to the initial box office. But it seems with every John Carpenter film, or at least the majority of them, they seem to only ever get more revered as sort of time goes on.
Yes,
and you often sort of see like lists of the best John Carpenter films and stuff like that. And it's hard to imagine that these films weren't that initial success. A lot of them,
That's right.
So it always seems a bit strange, that a lot of these films are so revered today, including Big Trouble in Little China. But a lot of them struggled initially with the box office for whatever reason. So how did you find John Carpenter?
Me?
Carpenter.
Either of you. Yeah.
I think
you go ahead.
Yeah, I think you were I was only on it actually for 10 weeks. I think you were on the schedule right from the beginning to the end, weren't you, James?
Yeah, I was. I have to say, John is just a genius. I mean, now I'm also a director, and to understand the process of directing is such a difficult task. I have to tell you, the easiest job in the movie making is being an actor. That I really felt is the easiest. It's mental, but it's preparation. But you hit the line, and you say your line, and then you can go to your trailer and have your coffee. But then being a director, you gotta either you can write or you look at somebody else's script. Then you gotta analyze the script, and then you gotta figure out how exactly you're gonna shoot it, from which angle, and what kind of lens you're gonna use, and all of that. And yet he is able to direct different genres, Halloween and so on and so forth. It just makes me wonder how he's able to jump from one genre to the next and does it so well, And on top of that, he's a musician. He composed music and all of that.
Yeah.
Which is
I love his score for Big Trouble. It's actually one of the best composers, I would say. He's probably up there, top 5 composers in my opinion.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. That's why I say he's a genius, in terms of being a director. I have to say, yes.
And Hollywood doesn't necessarily embrace easily geniuses like that, So that's why he I think relished the idea of operating outside of the studio area a lot, and so a lot of those first films that he had done were kind of like these independent films, the ones Halloween on up to like
low budget and all of that. Yes.
Christine, The Fog, movie like that. They were all fairly low budget, and and once you're kind of like you're approaching it independently, you don't have to answer to anybody but yourself. And Jan was definitely a maverick like that. That he didn't like giving up a lot of control.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously did a lot of writing as well, so obviously very, very, very invested. I just want to circle back, Donald, because you did have a couple of action scenes. For example, in the bit where you have the prison rescue sort of sequence. So
right,
you had a couple of. You said you're a lover, not a fighter, but you did have a couple of action sequences, and the one where you're like jumping in the pool and all of that. So how much of that was? I mean, did you have to kind of like get a stuntman to do some of that, or was that all you?
One of my stunt man was also he was like one of the assistant fight choreographers. His name was Jim Lau. I think Jim's actually he also resides in Los Angeles now as well. And the scene that you're referring to, he would he was going to do a lot of the stuff that was not close in, the stuff that was using a lens that was a little further out. So he was actually the guy that was doing a lot of the movement that you saw that wasn't close in. And so he would actually discuss with me, well, how is it that you would actually go about fighting this girl? So you don't want to do any of the kung fu stuff. And I said, well, I think my feeling was Eddie, the character, was more like just kind of a normal 1-2 duke it out, kind of like John Wayne guy. And so he would just help me work on a couple moves, and so Jim was very good in that way. He was he turned out to be a very good stunt guy, and he's also a very nice guy too as well. So the main fight coordinator, the stunt coordinator, I think his name was Jeff, wasn't it?
No, James Liu. That's his
was
name.
It James Liu or was it Jeff?
No,
Jeff. Okay.
No, James Liu.
Yeah, James. Okay, James. There was a couple of them that were like James did he was in a lot of the scenes in that fight alley scene too, as well as one of the gang called the Chang Sing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned stuntman because, of course, I think they're adding a stunt category to the Oscars now, which which means obviously it's finally sort of being recognised. Sort of as a more of the craft that it is. So I think people have long been asking for a stunt category in the Oscars, and I'm pretty sure the upcoming Oscars whenever it will be the next one, will actually be the first time that actually has a stunt category. So that'll be quite exciting. I think obviously it would, give that sort of prestige and the kind of the recognition to the obviously guys who sort of work in that field. And there's been some good work with all the John Wick films and all of that sort of stuff in kind of recent years.
Yeah.
So I think
they're highly underappreciated, highly underrecognized, highly underappreciated, and it's great that they're finally getting their due. Hopefully that they can include it in the whole part of the Oscar show that's actually televised. That would be great.
I think so, and I think because that's something that I think the audiences would be interested in, because they would show this done on the scene, I would have imagined. So certainly for someone watching the telecast, that's going to be something more. I mean, because they're doing casting director as well, that might not be quite as interesting to watch for someone who's just watching the show. But certainly the stunt scenes, I would have imagined would be far more interesting.
Yeah, I think definitely stunt scene definitely will be more interesting. I agree. I think this should have been done like 10, 20 years ago.
Years ago.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's a little too late. I really think Oscar is always too late for things.
Yeah, it's the last award show, isn't it? At the kind of the run that's on there.
Yeah.
But, it's there eventually. But that'll be certainly interesting. It'll be curious to see what gets nominated for it. I have to say, certainly, obviously, when you think Oscar films, you don't necessarily think of stunts and stuff. So I'm sort of curious to sort of see, how that pans out, because obviously the Oscars have had declining viewership. So obviously, I think part of it is to try and to appeal to more of a kind of casual sort of, fan of movies and stuff, which is why they're trying to have maybe a bit more, more mainstream appeal to it and stuff. And obviously, stunts is ultimately that's the most dangerous job involved, I would argue, in the film industry. I mean, sadly, you hear, stunt people getting injured or worse, unfortunately, from time to time. So certainly, some recognition is well deserved. So Matt has asked a question. Who do you think is the best martial artist out of the cast of Big Trouble in Little China? I think you might be biased.
Who is the best?
James.
I must say it has to be me. I'm just joking. Of course, Peter and Carter all share the same crown, that's for sure. And of course, all the stuntmen, they were all very good in it. Every time I watch, especially the scene in the alley, all those fight scenes, it looks just so real and so original, because back then there wasn't these wirings, pulling people falling on the floor, 20 feet away. It's just like they really have to do it themselves, fall or kick and things like that. And it just looks so original and very Hong Kong style, the way I liked. I thought it was very well done. And it's funny. Also, a lot of it is very funny, And that's why it really, I think I should say, it should be shared by every stuntman in that movie to make it such a classic. The alley scene will never be able to be recreated,
Yeah, it's an iconic scene. Did anyone accidentally take a foot to the face when you were making it?
I bet there must be quite a few guys, the stunt guys, definitely.
But so many people involved. Someone must have accidentally taken a hit, I would imagine. But probably just just I suppose that must happen.
That's their job. That's part of their job, is to kind of take a hit on their face, or on their chest, or whatever, or on their butt.
So some of the older Jackie Chan movies and Old Boy, but the alley scene is one of the greatest. It certainly is. Yeah,
it is.
I always think if you just type in Big Trouble in Little China on YouTube and you're going to see what comes up, that's like normally the first sort of scene. It's clearly sort of
the truck comes in and then the three storms, turning the somersault, spinning blade, which all the amazes all the audience and the fans.
Yeah.
Yes,
that was one of the more. I think when I remember when I first watched that and I sort of saw that, and then I think Peter had those they're like back scratches, like claw things. I was like, oh, the spinny things. Oh, that would be like, you know, putting that against someone. And I remember thinking, oh, that's sort of nasty. You'd have a big like hole and stuff. And you know, obviously, had it been a more gory film, then I guess you would have sort of seen it. But obviously, I didn't want to go sort of too gory. I was curious. Did you ever film anything, either of you, that were kind of not shown in the actual movie? Do you ever remember there being a scene that didn't end up in the film?
I think everything is pretty much in it. I mean, from my memory, pretty much everything is in it.
I'd have to agree with that. The script was pretty tight. It was a pretty tight script. I certainly don't remember anything that I had read in the original script that involved my character that I didn't end up seeing in the final product. You know, in that regard, it was a pretty economical script, and not in this movie. No,
I suppose that speaks to obviously John Carpenter's, like you were saying earlier, his sort of vision and control over it. He knows exactly what he wants, and there's no like sort of mess. Because I know a lot of, you know, for some filmmakers, they'll film a lot, you know, and the initial cut is 3 or 4 hours, and they've got to whittle it down and stuff. But it sounds like obviously John knew exactly what he wanted in that case. Which is obviously, you know, he's obviously very much hands-on in that respect.
Very hands-on.
Changing up to video games just for a little bit. Obviously, Donald, and obviously you've done. We spoke briefly before the stream, but you've done some work in video games, doing kind of voiceovers and stuff. Could you tell me a little bit? And obviously, you were in Diablo. How did you get involved in that, and what was your experience doing just voice work?
The Diablo. The voiceover world is a very interesting kind of world to be involved in which, you know, your agent will submit your voice, and if you happen to get the audition, they'll ask you to put whatever character it is that you want on tape, and it'll be submitted, and then oftentimes you won't hear for a while, and then all of a sudden, like this Diablo one, I think it didn't come up. The offer didn't come up till like 3 months after I did the audition. I don't even remember what the audition was, you know? Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it works. And like, so I couldn't even tell you what the game is about. I mean, they just, a lot of how it's done is that you have to sign an NDA before getting involved in it all, because that's how secretive and how much they care about their project and everything. And frankly, as I had talked to you about earlier, I don't know much about video games myself. I don't play them. So, but yeah, getting around to it, it's like, if you get the job, all that's really involved is you just hustle yourself into a little sound studio, and however long that it takes for you to voice whatever it is they want voiced, you're in and out, basically. And then a lot of the jobs, I don't think that one even lasted more than 4 hours.
Is it very stringent? I mean, do they like allow you to improvise, or is it like you say these lines specifically like that, or is it, do they allow?
Yeah, no. As far as my experience, it's been very spot on. They'll have every line mapped out, and you know, and how it is that they want it read. And,
They tell you like about, because obviously I can imagine for a voice acting, if you're not seeing the character, so do they sort of give you like, right, he's this kind of like bad guy, and you've got to allow you to sort of, as an actor, sort of understand and let that influence your performance, if that makes sense. Because I imagine that's quite different skill set to playing a character in a way.
Right. Sometimes if they already have the scenes that the character you're voicing is already shot, they'll actually show you the scene. You know, they'll actually show you the scene unfolding and how it is that your voice is supposed to match the character as it speaks. But that's not always the case as well. You may not get a video readout of it all. It may just be the line itself, you know. So it's very in that way. It's there's a lot of flexibility. It just depends on how far along they are in having shot the footage for the game.
Yeah.
So I've done a couple of the voices for a couple other projects where they weren't even shot yet, or they weren't even designed yet. They weren't even drawn out. They just wanted to do the voice of the character first, and then they would fill in the animation afterwards.
Yeah, so I watched an interview with a guy called Peter Cullen. I don't know if you're familiar, and he did the voice for the Optimus Prime from the Transformers, and he was primarily worked as a voice actor. And I remember he went to this interview and he's with the casting, and he said, "Oh," he went. So I remember in the interview they said he was like he spoke to his brother and he said, "Oh, I've done a casting to be a voice of a truck," and he's like the leader, and his brother was in the military. And obviously, this is before the cartoon and all that. And apparently his brother was influenced, sort of saying about like leadership and how you should how we should approach like kind of that sort of being a leader and everything. So it was very like way more in depth than you possibly would think, even though with this kind of voice acting, which I found really quite interesting. On the subject of video games, Matt has also asked it's more of a comment. Obviously, James' version of Lightning was, of course, the influence from Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
Very, very iconic character in Mortal Kombat. And of course, James Hong, also from Big Trouble in Little China, also influenced. His character was Lo Pan, influenced Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat. So a very influential movie. But obviously, your Straw Hat sort of situation. In Big Trouble in Little China, kind of iconic, now you still see characters like that, and the Raiden character is very, very popular.
That's right.
Here's an interesting question from Jamie Powell here. So he asks, "Good morning, big fan of Big Trouble in Little China. Which character would you think would have an interesting backstory or a movie spin-off in Big Trouble in Little China?" I think it's an interesting question.
What do you think, Donald?
Wow. Yeah, Eddie Lee would be, I think he would be a good character to do that with, because I think in the final scene, there's like a little allusion to the fact that he and the reporter girl kind of, they end up like indicating that they might end up having a little romance down the road. If
I was going to ask you about that.
So I think her name was
Margot.
Margot or something like that. Yeah. She was a reporter, and so that would be a great place to start. I think. Maybe he's gone on to start up a chain of like Chinese restaurants that are being threatened by.
Yes, I think so.
Rival restaurateurs or something.
Yes, I think that would be a good sequel to that. And many fans had asked me, is there ever gonna be a sequel or a remake of Big Trouble? I said, go ask Rock Johnson, but Rock has
that's right.
The script right, and has been. Getting somebody to write the script, but until now we don't hear anything. So I tell the fans that James Pax is gonna be the producer and the writer for the TV series version of Big Trouble in Little China. And I am definitely gonna bring up the Three Storms to be the leading character. Of course, will be played by younger characters, to give it a younger spin to it, and then of course Carter and I will appear, as a sensei, the teacher or something, or the orator or something, oracle, to give them pointers. I think that would be interesting. And of course, Eddie's character can always come back that his restaurant is in trouble. Whether there's gonna be another gang fight inside this time we can have a gang fight inside the restaurant, just like Year of the Dragon. A shootout. and the kung fu fighting inside the restaurant.
Yeah,
burn the whole thing and blow it up. Right. I think that would be fun. Yes, I got it all.
Comics. They have done comic spin-offs of
yes,
Big Trouble, and I haven't read them, but I think from what I have just kind of read the synopsis is that there is a comic. There's probably more than one, but where it's like a prequel, like in ancient China, where the Storms are the generals of like Lo Pan when he was like originally kind of like kicking around in China or what have you, and the Storms are like his generals, so to speak, and so they're obviously. I think the kind of the idea, obviously, they've been alive for hundreds of years or what have you.
Hundreds of years.
Obviously, you've got plenty of time to kind of obviously do that, and obviously in regards to like after the fact, obviously you mentioned Yorm and the character of Margot, because obviously that the gang, I forget what they're called. Is it the White Tigers or whatever they are? They're still around, aren't they? So the people that kidnapped the girl from the airport,
green-eyed girl, yes.
They're still like they're still kicking around. So there's plenty of scope. But I have to say, as far as the remake concerned, for me, and this is just my opinion on it, a remake I think is valid when there's like improvements that could have been made. But I think I don't know what you would do with Big Trouble in Little China to make it seem worth doing a remake in a way, because I don't know if it was I mean, all the special effects still hold up today. I think the characters are very sort of iconic. I think doing a remake, you take another John Carpenter like film, like The Fog. They remade The Fog, and it was just like an inferior version. So unless you can bring something new, I don't know necessarily. The only reason I would say to do it was because young people don't want to watch older films. I guess that's the only sort of reason, I suppose. But I don't know if they were to remake Big Trouble in Little China, what would they do to sort of like improve on it? I don't think there is much really. I think it pretty much stands the test of time, in my opinion, at least.
I definitely think it should be a sequel, not a remake. A sequel would be much better. Would make sense.
Set in the same universe, doesn't necessarily have to follow. Like Jack, because probably obviously Kurt Russell's quite old. Don't know if he'd want to do that now, but you could have in the same, like in continuity, another story. You could still have characters come in or something, but not necessarily as a sequel. We've got an idea here. Kim Cattrall could be Big Sex in Little China.
Oh my God!
Obviously, her being Sex in the City and all that. If you're not
right. Yes.
That I think that might probably be a bit problematic with that title, I would imagine. So since both of you are teaming up to do the Kung Fu Con with the theme of the Big Trouble Little China reunion, obviously I wish you great success in that, and we'll obviously certainly give you some updates. What other kind of projects might you have coming up as well, either of you, like in the future, in the next kind of couple of years? What else have you got on the cards?
Well, let's continue to talk about the Kung Fu Con. Actually, I have several concepts. I think one other concept, besides of Donald and I are doing the reunion already. We are booked to go to Indiana to do a reunion there. And we just got booked in August as well to go to Texas, another horror-related event, to do a Big Trouble in Little China reunion. And then, of course, just to repeat, we're going to be in UK again, September the 1st, Saturday, in London, okay? But I don't have the date locked in, so I can't really say which day. But it's most likely going to be the first Saturday. And it's going to be on kungfulegends.com, www.kungfulegends.com, or you can look up Instagram, JamesPax_lightning. Make sure you join me. And all the information will be there, all right? But to continue with that is, I have a second concept. It is called Big Trouble versus Mortal Kombat. Isn't that good? And it's going to be versus Mortal Kombat's original video games, motion captured action guys. All right.
Wow. The actors that did all the original. Oh, that's interesting.
Gator. And one of the guys is two brothers. They are the main guys, Daniel Pesina and Oscar Pesina. And just to let the fans know, they are joining us in London as well. So
Fantastic.
There's going to be Big Trouble reunion and also the reunion of Mortal Kombat. And Daniel, he is a master of Kung Fu. So he's going to be doing his own demonstrations as well. His rope darts and all of that. Incredible guy. All right. So hope to see all of you there. And of course, we're going to be doing touring with this concept, which I just told you. And on top of that, I'm planning actually to do a feature movie very soon. It's called The Vortex. And I've been on this, writing the script for about 4 years now. And finally, it's all finalized. Two feature movie of 90 minutes and plus a 9-episode continuation of one of the movie. And we're looking for financing right now. I already have somebody in Hollywood, a big producer, very interested. And once it's locked in, we're going to be making an announcement. And in this one of the feature movie, I already have in mind that Donald is going to play a pretty major role in it. I won't tell you what kind of role, but it's going to be really interesting. All right.
Nice.
I
think you've spoken to Pierre Donato as well, haven't you?
What's that?
You spoke to, because obviously I know you spoke, I'm friends with Pierre Donato about he did a G.I. Joe movie. And I think he said that he might be looking at doing something with you in the future as well.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of projects coming up. Some bigger budget and some they so-called the low budget kung fu action movies. Yeah, we've been getting a lot of calls lately. On me coming out and do movies as an actor again. But my goal is to do more in directing and producing, actually, besides a Kung Fu Con. I really feel now is the time to resurface, not just as an actor, but as a director and a screenwriter. And I really feel right now the terrain is open now for all Asians. It doesn't matter if you are Korean or Japanese, but I really feel that we need to have more and better screenwriters, because without a good script, it's hard to produce good movies. So that's why for the last 20 years, I've been trying, learning on my own how to write. And now I can say I'm a very good writer and a storyteller, and which is also one of the subjects in the future I'll be touring and talk about how to write your own script, which again is on my Instagram. I already have like a 3-minute intro sharing my thoughts of how to write your own script, with artistic and also knowing how to tell a story, in a constructive way.
Well, you mentioned obviously the importance of a script. I think certainly with the mainstream films where they announce a date, in the future, and in a certain time in the future, and then they start making the film without even the script finished. I know a lot of the Marvel films, for example, sometimes they've been criticised for being sort of lackluster the last few years, but there's been more than one occasion where they haven't finished the script and they're starting shooting without even a finished script. And I think that's exactly the problem is that obviously the bones of the story, first, and then obviously once you plan, then you can kind of go. That's obviously the best option. I think too many times now is that these bigger budget mainstream films, sometimes they're just in a rush to get to their release date. They booked it in advance, so we need to get going. The script isn't finished, but we need to kind of get on there, and then you get the product, which just ultimately, I think, the box office sometimes shows that it's just not a good product, or it's not a great product at the very least. How about
well,
yourself?
I have to say, yeah, Donald, you go ahead because I have to adjust my internet.
I know you've got some personal. I won't say in case you don't want me to mention it, but I know you've got some a big personal event coming soon. All positive. I don't know. I didn't know if you want me to say, but
my yes, impending marriage. James, I don't even think you know my lady friend here in Bangkok. We decided to make it official. Yeah, so
oh my goodness,
we're going to be
Congrats.
registering the marriage here middle of this month. Yeah, so
that's amazing.
I'm going to have to greatly improve my. She's a Thai lady. That's why I'm here in Bangkok, and I'm going to have to greatly improve my Thai language skills now because her English is a little spotty too.
You have to learn your Mai Tai, then you can go against James's Kung Fu, then, can't you? Sort of Mai Tai Kung Fu. That'll be interesting. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, that's clearly your big event, which is actually going to be you'll be concentrating on in the kind of the near future. But outside of that, have we got anything else planned in regards to kind of like any roles that are upcoming, or are you concentrating on the marriage and the convention and everything?
I just think prior to this was about a month ago. I laid down a track for. At the time, I think they said it was going to be a series regular for this Nickelodeon series in terms of voice and character for it. So I think they said the start date on that was going to be in October. So we're just waiting to hear.
Nice. You've got quite a deep voice. Like I can imagine you playing like kind of bad guys. Like you've got that kind of. I can imagine you can do that sort of like menacing sort of tone if you wanted to. I can just kind of see that in regards to that sort of quite a sort of deep sort of. I can imagine somewhat intimidating voice if you were to do like a bad guy's voice or something like that. I can just see it.
Yeah, right.
So Jamie Powell's also just done a comment about maybe a spin-off, Big Trouble in the Big Apple. Don't remake the classic. Spin-offs are the way to go. Expand the lore and stories. Yeah, I think that would probably be a good idea. More in the world. I mean, who knows if it'll ever happen? I know there was that band remake, but maybe we'll see. Well, I guess we'll have to see what obviously happens in the future there.
Yeah.
So obviously you're in Thailand at the moment. I mean, what's Thailand like? I've never been there. How do you find it compared to like the US and that?
It's hot and humid.
Hot and humid.
Hot and humid. And the food is to die for, and the people are wonderful. I really love the culture here. It's like there's not a whole lot of judgmentalism in here. Everybody just like live your life, and it's a great culture. It's a very the people are wonderful, warm, and welcoming, and I mean you got to visit sometime.
Have you ever watched any of the Thai boxing or anything? Have you ever seen any of the Thai boxing? Yeah.
Have I seen any Thai boxing? No, on television, but I haven't gone to the stadiums yet. Maybe that's the next thing on the docket is to check out one of those Muay Thai. I think it is. It's called Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Muay Thai boxing.
Popular, Thai boxing style here.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, that'll be. I mean, that's. I've done a few reviewed a few films obviously out of Thailand and stuff, and a lot of them are sort of based with the Thai boxing. Looks brutal. Looks very brutal.
Oh,
it is. But I think MMA is more brutal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
MMA.
But both are brutal. Both are brutal.
Those are the ones that take place within the cage, right?
Yes.
Yeah. MMA is in the cage. Yes.
Right.
Octagon, they call it.
But I think if you did take a little trip over here, Leo, you would really find it interesting. Yeah,
well, I like all of the sort of like, I mean, I've never been, obviously, but when I see sort of all the temples and the statues they've got all over the place.
Oh, yes.
It looks beautiful and stuff. And if I ever visit another country, I always try to see like the culture and have a good look at like what I don't see.
The temples.
The temples stuff, which you don't, obviously very different.
Amazing temples. I've been there 2 or 3 times. I visited all the temples, and they're really quite amazing. Especially they got this huge temple. I mean, huge Buddha lying on the ground on a bed. That was really
on the
quite
side.
amazing.
Yeah, the lying Buddha.
On the side, kind
of the reclined Buddha. Yeah,
reclining Buddha.
Nice.
Really interesting and culture.
It's a very affordable trip.
Oh, is it?
I didn't realize you can get a pretty good bang for your pound over here. Good bang for your buck. So it's a very inexpensive place to visit. So come along sometime.
Yeah, definitely. James, I want to talk a little bit about the Vortex project. And it sounds somewhat interesting. What else can you tell us about that? I mean, I don't know how much you're able to tell.
Well, from the last time that we spoke, which is probably 3 or 4 years ago, right? Our last interview. I actually took on a besides of this, I would say, ISIS project. I also developed a zombie project, which means it's about kung fu against the zombies, and which actually turned out to be quite an amazing, because there's never been a movie about kung fu and zombie, and I did it. And I had one of the veteran producer from Miramax. I cannot release his name. He read it. He said, "My God, James, you did something that I love, and nobody has yet done it. And this is one of the projects I really want to see it going. And I'm going to refer you to my boss, who is so-and-so, who did many, many Quentin Tarantino's movie, just so you know." So if this lady and this producer, their team, they jump on, I think both of these two subjects of the Vortex will become a pretty big hit, I hope.
It's definitely a film I'd want to see. I have to say, it does sound pretty good.
And just so you know, this is like what I can talk about. I have my own international stunt team now. I call them the Immortals. A couple of them from China, and some of them are already living here, and also from Ukraine. And now, of course, we have Emil joining our team as well. I actually just met him on the internet. Actually, I saw his video on the Instagram, and he was just so amazing with his hands and his nice kick, for 6'2", and he kicks high and fast, like almost as fast as Bruce Lee. I said, man, this guy is good. I'm 5'11". I was a good kicker, but this guy is 6'2", can kick like that. He knows what he's doing. And then when I found out that he was Taekwondo, black belt 4th degree, and then he was again Wing Chun and Jeet Kune Do. That's where all the quick hands coming from. And he was in Hong Kong. He appeared on Hong Kong TV. Can you imagine? Interviewed, and he's not even Chinese. He's a Lao Wai, white guy, and he's getting interviewed. And all the Chinese guys say, "Oh my God, this guy is fast. He's fast." Anybody could be Bruce Lee, the remake, and he is it. That's why
I've watched a few Chinese films, and the white guys are always the bad guys in those films.
I know. It's true.
It is true. But I'm with Donald. I have to say, I'm more of a lover than a fighter like you, Donald. So I'll be on your team in regards to this, certainly. All right, guys. Well, look, we've gone for over an hour now, so we'll probably wrap it up. But what we'll finish with is just if you guys just want to let us, obviously, anyone else know where they can find you in regards to website or social media, and obviously, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. James, you want to just go first, and then I will go to Donald.
Yes, definitely. I'm on Facebook. Just look up James Pax Lightning Fan Club. That's one of the name, and the other one is called just simply Kung Fu Khan. And on Instagram, it's just James Pax _Lightning. And then the official website for the Kung Fu Khan event coming up in September in London is Kung Fu Legends with an S in the end .com, where you're gonna find the location and the time and all the packages that you can purchase and all of that. And I can't wait to see all my new and old fans there. And of course, Leo, you got to be there so we can all take a family selfie together, right? And you can post it. Absolutely, you have to be there. What are you talking about? You got to be there. All right?
I think as far as for me, I think that's you can find me along with James at these Comic-Cons coming up.
Yes.
I'm not much of a presence in social media right now. Hopefully that might change in the future, but that's probably the best way that one could catch me in the next near future.
Yes.
I think if you're hanging around with this guy, he'll definitely make you put you on more of a digital footprint.
Yeah, Jenny, my manager, actually is also Donald's manager, and she was so good in less than 2 weeks. Donald's name and face is all over on the internet right now with me together. So
wow,
Donald really doesn't have to do anything. Jenny does all the work, and I just go up there and just smile and say hi. And Donald, that's all you have to do. It's hi, and that's it. Everything else is taken care of by Jenny already. That's the beauty of it.
Thank you, Jenny. I want to finally meet her and give her a big hug.
Absolutely.
A loving hug.
Yes.
Great stuff. All right, gents. Well, obviously, I'll let you go because I know it's probably quite late for you, James, in the States. Probably sometime in the morning and afternoon for you, Donald, in Thailand. So obviously, we're all over the place. We're all over the world this stream. So thank you very much to both of you for obviously giving up your time and speaking to me. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed it, and we'll any updates on obviously the conventions and stuff. I'll speak to James, and I'll be able to post any updates. And thank you very much, gents.
Hopefully, we'll see you in London.
Everyone who's watching.
Yes.
Bye,
everyone. See you in London, and Leo too. Cheers.
Right. Talk to you.
Bye. All right.
And that's it. The stream is now ended, I think. End stream.
Wow.
So there you go.
Terrific.